Long before tarred roads reached the villages of eastern Nigeria, when the sound of the wooden mortar and pestle echoed through every compound at sunrise, and elders settled disputes beneath the ancient Oji tree, there stood a peaceful village called Umuokoro. It was a land blessed with fertile soil, clear streams, colorful festivals, and hard-working people who believed that every child was born carrying a unique destiny. Among all the daughters of Umuokoro, none was spoken of more than a young woman named Amara. People often said that the Creator had taken extra time when He made her. Her skin glowed like polished bronze after the first rain. Her eyes were gentle but bright enough to light up the darkest heart. Her long black hair flowed gracefully down her back, and whenever she smiled, even old women forgot their worries for a moment. But beauty alone was not what made Amara special. She greeted everyone with respect. She fetched water for widows without being asked. She carried firewood for elderly women. She sat beside lonely grandmothers, listening to stories many young people considered boring. Whenever a child cried, Amara was the first to comfort them. Whenever someone was sick, she prepared herbs or food to help the family. The villagers admired her not because she was beautiful, but because kindness seemed to follow her wherever she walked. The women prayed their daughters would become like her. The young men prayed she would one day become their wife. Yet, every evening, when laughter filled other compounds, Amara sat quietly outside the small mud house she inherited from her late parents. Her father, Obioma, had died after a brief illness when she was only 15. A year later, her mother joined the ancestors. Since then, she lived under the care of her father's younger brother, Uncle Okeke. To everyone in Umuokoro, Uncle Okeke appeared generous. He spoke softly. He attended village meetings. He contributed to community projects. Whenever people praised him for taking care of his late brother's daughter, he smiled humbly. "My brother's child is my own child," he would say. The villagers admired him. Only Amara knew another side of the man. Whenever visitors left, his smile disappeared. He reminded her constantly that the farmland surrounding her father's compound now belonged to him. He decided where she went. He controlled every coin she earned from selling vegetables. If she questioned him, he shouted, "If not for me, you would have been begging on the streets." Amara remained silent. She believed patience was stronger than anger. Years passed. When Amara turned 20, the first suitor arrived. His name was Obina, a hard-working farmer whose yam harvest was the envy of neighboring villages. He was respectful, honest, and loved by everyone. One evening, carrying kola nuts, palm wine, and accompanied by his elders, he visited Uncle Okeke's compound. After the traditional greetings, Obina spoke confidently. "My fathers," he said respectfully, "I have searched my heart and I have found peace only in Amara. I have come to ask for her hand in marriage." Amara lowered her eyes shyly. She had known Obina since childhood. He was kind, gentle, patient. If there was any man worthy of becoming her man, it was him. Uncle Okeke pretended to hesitate before smiling. "If the girl agrees, then who am I to refuse?" The entire village rejoiced. Women immediately began discussing wrappers for the traditional marriage. Young girls sang songs as they fetched water. Men promised to help build the couple's new home. For the first time since losing her parents, Amara believed happiness had finally remembered her. Days passed quickly. Only one day remained before the traditional marriage. That afternoon, Obina traveled to a neighboring village to collect special palm wine requested by the elders. He never returned. As evening approached, frightened travelers rushed into Umwokoro. There has been an accident. People abandoned their meals and followed them. Obina's body lay beneath a giant Iroko tree. No wounds, no struggle, no explanation. It looked as though life had simply left him. The celebration instantly became mourning. The drums meant for dancing were covered. The food prepared for the ceremony fed mourners instead. Amara cried until she fainted. She refused food for days. No one understood what had happened. The village dibia examined the body but found nothing unusual. He finally declared, "It is the will of destiny." Life slowly returned to normal. Months later, another young man named Chibuzo fell deeply in love with Amara. His parents warned him. "My son," his mother pleaded, "let another man test that road." Chibuzo laughed. "Death comes only when the Creator permits." He proposed. Again, preparations began. Again, songs filled the village. Again, women pounded yam in anticipation. Again, only one day remained. That evening, Chibuzo complained of feeling unusually tired. By sunrise, he was dead. No sickness, no wounds, no poison, simply dead. Fear entered Omwokoro. Whispers spread faster than wildfire. Perhaps the girl carries a curse. Maybe her mother's family offended the spirits. Could she be possessed? People stopped speaking when she approached. Children who once ran into her arms now hid behind their mothers. Women avoided sitting beside her during festivals. Even those who pitied her feared being associated with her. Amara's heart broke a little more every day. She spent long hours beside the stream, asking questions only heaven could answer. What have I done? Why do every man who loves me die? If I carry a curse, why was I even born? Only the wind answered. Years passed. 7 suitors came, one after the other. 7 men died, 7 broken families. By the time Amara turned 28, people no longer called her the most beautiful woman in Umwokoro. They called her the bride death refused to share. The name pierced her heart like a spear. Every night she cried herself to sleep. Yet hidden beneath the mask of sorrow, someone else smiled in darkness. Uncle Okeke. Late each night after the village had fallen asleep, he quietly slipped out of his compound and disappeared into the forbidden forest where even hunters feared to enter. Deep inside the forest stood a crumbling shrine swallowed by giant trees and creeping vines. An old man wrapped in black waited beside a smoking clay pot. "You have come again," the old man whispered. Okeke nodded. "The girl remains unmarried." The old man stretched out a trembling hand. "What do you offer this time?" Without hesitation, Okeke placed a bag of cowries, a white cock, and a calabash of palm wine before him. "I must keep her here," he said. "As long as she remains unmarried, her late father's land belongs to me. The day she marries, everything returns to her." The old man's eyes glowed strangely. "And another man seeks her?" "Yes. Then another life shall be taken." Okeke smiled. "Do it." The shrine grew silent. A cold wind swept through the forest. Neither man noticed the owl watching silently from a nearby branch. The owl remained motionless, its glowing eyes fixed on the shrine as though it understood every wicked word that had been spoken. Then, with one loud cry, It spread its wings and disappeared into the darkness. Uncle Okeke laughed nervously. "It is only a bird." The old man shook his head slowly. "There are birds that belong to the forest, and there are birds that carry messages. Be careful, Okeke. Evil never keeps its servants forever." Okeke ignored the warning. He adjusted the wrapper around his waist and hurried back to the village before dawn. By the time the first cock crowed, he was already sweeping his compound as though he had spent the entire night at home. Days later, another young man from a neighboring village came to seek Amara's hand in marriage. His name was Ogochukwu, a respected hunter whose bravery was known throughout the region. When his parents heard he wished to marry Amara, they begged him to reconsider. "My son," his father pleaded, "there are many beautiful women in this world. Why must you choose the one surrounded by death?" Ogochukwu smiled confidently. "If everyone abandons an innocent woman because of fear, then who will stand beside her? I do not believe she is cursed." His determination warmed Amara's wounded heart. For the first time in many months, she laughed again. The preparations began. Women dyed wrappers. Palm wine was stored in large earthen pots. The village drummers repaired their drums. Children rehearsed dances for the celebration. Yet, beneath the joy, fear lingered like a shadow. People whispered quietly among themselves, "Will this one survive? The spirits have never failed." I pity the young man. On the evening before the traditional marriage, Ogochukwu went into the forest to retrieve antelope meat he had trapped earlier that week. He never returned. The search party found him before sunrise. His hunting bag lay beside him. His bow was untouched. His body bore no wound. His eyes remained open, as though he had seen something too terrifying to describe. Another funeral replaced another wedding. The villagers no longer doubted. They believed Amara carried death wherever she went. Some even crossed the road whenever they saw her approaching. Young girls who once admired her beauty now whispered prayers whenever she passed. Amara stopped attending village gatherings altogether. She spent most of her days helping widows on lonely farms or sitting beside her parents' graves. One evening, while weeping quietly beneath the old udala tree where she used to play as a child, an elderly woman approached her. The woman was called Mama Ngozi. She was one of the oldest women in Umuokoro, respected for her wisdom and gentle spirit. She sat beside Amara without saying a word. After a long silence, she spoke. "My daughter." Amara wiped away her tears. "Yes, Mama." "Do you believe you are cursed?" Amara lowered her head. "I no longer know what to believe." Mama Ngozi took her hands. "Listen carefully. Sometimes the loudest lie becomes the easiest truth for people to believe." Amara looked at her with confusion. "What do you mean?" "I have lived longer than anyone in this village. I have seen jealous brothers poison brothers. I have seen sons betray fathers. I have seen greed wear the mask of kindness." She paused. "I do not think your problem is a curse." Amara's heart skipped. "Then what is it?" The old woman sighed deeply. "I do not yet know, but I know evil often hides behind familiar faces." Those words echoed in Amara's mind long after Mama Ngozi had gone. Meanwhile, Uncle Okeke continued enjoying the wealth that rightfully belonged to his late brother's daughter.
Each harvest season, he sold yams from her father's farmland. He bought goats. He expanded his compound. People praised him for his prosperity. None suspected the blood upon which it was built. Months later, a stranger arrived in Umokoro. His name was Chinedu. He was unlike any man the village had ever met. He was not the richest. He was not the strongest. He wore simple clothes and carried little more than a small bag, a walking staff, and an old leather-bound Bible that rarely left his hands. He had traveled from village to village repairing farming tools, teaching children to read, and encouraging people to live honestly. Wherever he stayed, people spoke of his kindness before they spoke of his work. One afternoon, while helping repair the roof of Mama Ngozi's hut after a heavy rainstorm, Chinedu noticed Amara carrying firewood for an elderly widow. Despite the weight on her head, she stopped to greet everyone respectfully. She smiled at children who refused to smile back. She thanked people who barely acknowledged her presence. Chinedu watched silently. "Who is that young woman?" he asked. Mama Ngozi looked at him carefully. "That is Amara." "I have never seen such sadness hidden behind such a beautiful smile." The old woman sighed. Her story is heavier than the firewood she carries. That evening, she told him everything. Every proposal, every death, every rumor, every broken dream. When she finished, Chinedu remained silent for a long moment. Finally, he asked, "Has anyone ever discovered why those men died?" "No." "Has anyone seen evidence that Amara caused them harm?" "No." "Then why has everyone judged her?" Mama Ngozi smiled faintly, because fear is easier than searching for the truth. The following morning, Chinedu deliberately walked to the stream where Amara usually fetched water. She noticed him immediately. "You are not from Umokoro." He smiled warmly. "No." "You should stay away from me." "Why?" "People who come close to me do not live long." Chinedu looked directly into her eyes. "I have met many people carrying pain that did not belong to them." She looked away. "You do not understand." "Then help me understand." For the first time in years, someone asked about her pain instead of running from it. They spoke for hours. Not once did Chinedu ask about her beauty. Not once did he mention the rumors. He wanted to know her dreams, her favorite childhood memories, her parents, her hopes before tragedy entered her life. Day after day they met, sometimes by the stream, sometimes beneath the mango tree near the village square, sometimes while helping elderly villagers on their farms. Slowly, Amara found herself smiling again. The villagers noticed. Whispers returned. "Another fool. He does not know what awaits him. Let him enjoy his happiness while it lasts." Uncle Okeke noticed too. One evening, he secretly watched the two laughing together near the stream. His smile vanished. "So, another one has come." That night, he returned to the forbidden shrine. The old man looked weaker than before. "The sacrifices grow heavier," he murmured. Okeke frowned. "I do not care. This stranger must die before he marries her." The old man stared into the fire. "I have warned you before. Darkness always demands a greater price. I will pay. You may not be the one paying." Okeke slammed the bag of cowries on the ground. "I said he must die." The old man reluctantly began another ritual. As strange chants echoed through the forest, neither of them realized that someone was hidden behind the thick bushes, watching every movement in terrified silence.